Hey beautiful soul, I'm Jessica Go, trauma coach in childhood, relationship and emotional abuse. Let's talk about the 5 different types of social anxiety levels that you need to know that is created by childhood trauma. And this is the information that you will never hear from your therapist, clinical therapy, self-development, right? And I'm here to give you the truth as to why you're feeling trapped and stuck in social anxiety. So the first level of social anxiety relates to childhood trauma number 1. And this level of anxiety is where you don't feel safe around people, you're extremely introverted, shy, quiet, you blend in with the furniture. You're someone who actually avoids social situations altogether. And it's so difficult for you to engage and connect with people because you're so caught up in your own analysis paralysis situation that's going on in your head about what would that person think of me? What should I say? And so you start to overthink these things, and it stops you from taking that step in engaging with that person, introducing yourself, putting your energy and your presence out there so people can feel you. So instead you contract, you hide. And so it's very easy for people to overlook you because you don't make yourself stand out in the room. You have a tendency to stay at home, drift into fantasy land and overthink things. And this is related to childhood trauma number 1 because this happens in utero, in your mum's womb, where you didn't feel safe. She was going through a lot of stress, or she didn't want a boy, she wanted a girl, or she wanted a girl, not a boy, or she didn't want a baby at all. And you were unwelcome and unwanted in her womb. So if you felt that way, then of course, how could you feel safe in your own body and in today's society? Then you have the second type of social anxiety, which is related to childhood trauma number 2. And this is the complete opposite. You're a chatterbox, you love to talk, you're a conversationalist. It's easy for you to engage with a conversation with someone. And so what happens is you hold on to someone for dear life, and you're taking on their life force and their energy to feed your own energy because you're not able to do that for yourself. And the biggest fear that you have is abandonment. So you're so attached to people, you don't want to let them go because you're scared that they will abandon you. And this has occurred in the first 18 months of life for you, where you were abandoned, adopted, given up away from your biological family, or you weren't breastfed by your biological mother. And what that does is that you missed out on that emotional bonding. And so what you do is that you latch onto people, substances like drugs, alcohol, external activities such as sex, gambling, retail shopping, overworking yourself, those sort of things, to engage things outside of yourself to fill up this void from within. And that creates a lot of exhaustion for you because you're giving away your own sovereignty. You're outsourcing your sovereignty by looking for external things to try and fix what's going on inside here. But really, you need to go inward to heal that. And so this is why you fear your own company. You don't like to be alone. You rather be in a toxic relationship or any relationship, or lower your standards for a relationship, than to be in your own company, because loneliness feels like death for you, and that creates a lot of anxiety. So you don't like to be alone. You don't like to be in your own company. The third level of social anxiety is that you find it hard to express yourself with people. And what I mean by this is you find it hard to say no, you find it hard to state your boundaries and your needs, because if you do, you have a fear of being criticized. And this comes back to childhood trauma number 3, in toddler phase, 18 months to 3 years of life, where you had an extreme bonding with mother, you felt trapped, you feel conditioned to be a good boy or a good girl, and you had to meet her expectations. And if you don't, you feel like you let her down, and then you start beating yourself up, and then you start holding on to grudges and resentments towards your mum, and this is projected into your adult life with adult relationships and friendships, right? Because you are a yes person, so you always say yes to people's needs, but you cannot say yes to your own needs. And this is the conundrum that you struggle with. And this creates a lot of anxiety for you, because when you know you don't want to do something and you can't say no, that creates a lot of anxiety, because as soon as you say yes, the anxiety disappears, but the resentment starts to build up. So you have a real struggle in expressing your truth. The fourth level of social anxiety comes to childhood trauma number 4, and this level of anxiety is intimacy. You fear connecting with people on a deeper level because you fear that being vulnerable is too painful, and that's your story. That's the distortion and false belief that you have around vulnerability, that it's not safe to be vulnerable. So you put on this mask, this facade, to be someone that you're not, to be superficial and surface level and perhaps egotistical, so people can't see you for who you really are. And what happens is, from the age between 4 to 7, you were rejected by the opposite sex parent for being vulnerable, for being authentic, and so it doesn't feel safe because you were conditioned that it's weak to be vulnerable, it's weak to show your true self. And so this is where the social anxiety shows up. You don't want people to see the real you. You struggle to be intimate in relationships. And so your relationships will only go so far because of your level of engagement, which is quite surface level and not deep and meaningful, right? Then the fifth level of social anxiety comes back to the fifth childhood trauma, which is you don't trust people. You're extremely cautious. You talk from a level of control and domination, but it doesn't come from your heart, because you're very guarded. You're guarded because you were humiliated and betrayed at any point in your childhood, or in school or in high school, where you were bullied, where you had friends who betrayed you and backstabbed you, where people talked behind your back, or you were abused in front of people. And that creates a lot of trust issues, right? So how could you trust anyone if perhaps people in your family dynamic humiliated you, right? And so how can you trust your family if you can't trust yourself? Because what happens is that you believed at that time that people cannot be trusted, and you cannot trust yourself because you allowed that to happen. And so you've given your power away by not trusting yourself. So you're very calculative, you're very cautious, you're very guarded, you put people at a distance, and you control the conversations. You're the one who asks the questions, and you're the one who likes to end the conversation as well. So you can come across as very intimidating, superior, dismissive, and also very in your head, very controlling. So those are the 5 different levels of social anxiety. So if you'd like to find out more, you can join me on my webinar by clicking on the link below, and you can learn a little bit more into full depth about every single one of them, and what you can do to get to the bottom of this, so you can start falling out of panic attacks, move forward with trust, and truly overcome and heal your childhood traumas that's keeping you stuck on replay, where this level of social anxiety is no longer serving you. And we want to heal that on a deep level, at a root cause, so you can move on with your life, so you can have the most fun and enjoyable and deep and meaningful relationships. so you can show up as your true self by feeling safe in your own body and in your own being, and trusting your intuition, trusting yourself, and knowing that everything will work out the way it needs to be without having to regress back into the wounded inner child, to regress back into your past experiences of childhood trauma. Let's move forward with clarity and confidence so you can make the most of each day, as you only get to live life once, as they say. So join me for my free webinar. I would love for you to click on the link below, and I look forward to seeing you there. And lastly, if you found that this video has been super helpful, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, give it a like, and comment below, what is the one biggest takeaway or lesson that you got out of this video blog. And remember to share it with your loved ones who is suffering as well, because this will start to wake up their own consciousness to see, it's not because I'm feeling like I have no confidence or shameful, it's because of the impacts of childhood traumas that I wasn't able to deal with. And now this conversation has brought a lot more awareness. It's giving me clarity as to why I'm feeling this way. So the next step is join me on my free webinar, and let's get to the bottom of this. Sending you all of my love. Take care.